Hi, my name is Dr. Constance Steinkuehler, and I am faculty at the University of California, Irvine. I am the lead scientist doing evaluation and research on the NASEF program. NASEF stands for the North America Scholastic Esports Federation, which is kind of a mouthful, but it's essentially an interest-driven program that was created with the help of the Samueli Foundation, and it was rolled out across schools, first in California, but soon nationally, and now actually we've partnered and we have international teams as well. This is a competitive video game program for kids in middle and high school, and we use it as a space to enrich kids' interest in this case, esports, with academic content, with positive relationships with peers and other mentors like teachers and coaches, and also with opportunities out in the professional world. So I want to talk a little bit today about our findings around building community. You know, in many ways, competitive video game play or esports is really a passion-driven community of spectators, players, and organizers that have been doing and organizing leagues around their favorite game titles for quite some time now. It's been really community-driven. But how do you build a space for youth that is enriched with academic content and pro-social skills while building a community across such diversity, not just of schools and states, but now even in other countries? One of the strategies that we use, because we're part of the Connected Learning Lab, we really focus on connection. And here, connection for us means starting with a student's shared interest and affinity for a particular topic, here games, and building on that is a way to connect kids to academic resources and content. For example, in NASEF, topics like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, English language arts, communication, and other career skills, but also connecting them to peers and mentors in positive ways that actually are resources for them and they're resources for one another in that community. And then third, you know, thinking about ways to connect kids' interest into opportunities out in the workplace, out in the world, beyond school and beyond gaming itself. That shared interest is kind of our bedrock. Now, since 2017, when our research began as the program kicked up, we've really been trying to pay attention to what are the outcomes that students themselves report and think are the most important. And of course, you know, we've been very interested in topics around the academic side, but as we've really watched the program roll out and students talking to students, what we found is that for many of the students involved, it's really the social side of the program that really has made a tremendous impact. So over the last 3 years, we've studied both qualitatively and quantitatively how students' social skills are strengthened in this kind of program, right? It's in some ways, it's kind of surprising and counterintuitive to think that esports or competitive gameplay, especially competitive gameplay done in brackets, online, etc., might be a source for strengthening community and social skills. But for the current youth generation, being online and being in the space of gameplay has been a fundamental place where they do social development and work. So from that perspective, it's really not a surprise at all. Of course, doing it well in an enrichment program that's school affiliated, and by well, I mean doing it in a way that you're not colonizing their space, is really hard to pull off. And one of the ways that I think NASEF has managed to do that has been because they keep listening carefully to what students do and want, and then building on that each year. Over the years, what we found is that, in fact, social emotional learning is one of the biggest outcomes that student report has been transformative in the program for them. And by that, I mean affiliation with school and with the club, responsible decision-making, self-management, and self-awareness. For example, knowing when you're tilting, knowing when you're getting frustrated and need to take a break. Relationship skills, listening skills, and actually communication skills. And of course, social awareness, to what extent you're aware of how your behavior might affect others. And in the last 3 years of research, it's been really very exciting watching kids in this space. And these sort of basic bedrock skills are what we have found when they are being constructed and strengthened in the environment where kids already are, where they're very excited about their interest in the game and in competition, we find that this has really been quite a catalyst for community itself. Now, as we've talked to students about their experiences in the program, we've also talked to coaches and parents. And this theme has really emerged throughout the last 3 years as an important one. You know, when we ask students quantitatively, how affiliated are they with the club, we find that an overwhelming majority, in fact, are very affiliated. So 74% of students are positively affiliated with the NASEF club at their school. In fact, it's interesting, you know, when you think about the kind of affiliation and support and spectator participation that happens around traditional sports, esports in this context under NASEF really looks and feels quite a bit like that, where you have community support from the school, from administrators, from the teachers who are acting as GMs or sort of mentors on the school sites, but also in the fact that for many students, this is a way for them to show their school pride by competing and winning as part of an esports team. So these last 2 years, we've actually also talked to the coaches who are mentoring young people in the program. Thanks to the Samueli Foundation and NASEF, schools can actually ask to have a virtual coach. Those virtual coaches are vetted and trained to work with young people. So they're not just high performers in the specific game titles that we use for competition. They're also trained to work well with kids. And one of the things that comes out across the coaches interviews is that teamsmanship and teams work is fundamental, the biggest part of what they end up working on with the student. Coaches have really acknowledged that many students, for example, come to the program and oftentimes there's a particular game title that they love to play, and they may have actually individual skills in playing it, but getting a team to cohere and learn how to build and work with one another and collaborate in a competitive environment is asking for a whole nother level of social emotional awareness and social skills. And those skills aren't just limited to the competitive team. In NASEF, it's not just a competitive team. You have a club around it where students in the club participate in myriad ways. They, first off, everyone pretty much plays the same game titles as the competing team, but other members of the club, if they're competitors or not, will end up doing work such as being a shoutcaster or being the data scientist or acting as a second coach or working on website or fundraising in order to get particular, you know, needs or goods for the team, like jerseys. And that whole group community over time has really developed into a space in which kids can actually develop professional social skills that are of benefit to their team and fundamentally a benefit to them. And it's really, in many ways, the work of the coaches to really be in that space with kids to help them understand not just how to behave in a positive way on a team, but how to behave in a positive way in the club community overall. And I like to think learning how to be online in a way that's humane and actually pro-social with one another. This community aspect, when we've talked to parents of NASEF kids, has been the #1 thing that they appreciate and value out of the NASEF program and their kids' participation. Again and again, with every parent that we interviewed, what we found was that for the parents, that community aspect and the idea that their kids are developing professional and adult social skills as they're in this space has proven to be one of the things that they value most. In terms of a connected learning approach, the way that we view it is that that shared affinity and interest of competitive games and specific titles in some cases, that's really the bedrock on which we build. But if that's the bedrock for building, then really, you know, we like to think of that peer-to-peer and peer-to-mentor bonds as kind of the scaffolding that we use to build and cultivate students' resilience, affiliation with school, and academic learning. If you're interested in finding out more, check out our website at connectedlearning.uci.edu.